In this video, we will be going through a few basic commands using the MySQL service. So the main commands are how we can create a database and how we can add tables. And we will also be going through how we can add columns and information to these tables. So I will be using HeidiSQL, which is known as a database designer. You can also use softwares like the MySQL Workbench, Navigate also. So let's get into the work. So first let's use a question to create our database. So there's a small scenario of how Pindua Mahavidyalaya they used to store data in books, and now they are going to change their system into a computer system. So they need to create a database called SchoolDB, and they also need to create two tables called as a student and teacher table within the SchoolDB database. So let's start our work. So first let's create a database called school_db within HeidiSQL. So to create a database, you right click on MySQL 80 or whatever name you have on the top. So you click on create new and then click on database. Next, let's give a name to the database called SchoolDB and then click OK to save the database. Next, let's scroll down and open school_db. And now we will have to create a student table to store student data. So let's right click on studentDB and then click on create new and then table. So the table's name is going to be student. Now let's add the columns for the student table. So the first column is going to be the index number. So the data type is going to be varchar. And also the length is supposed to be 10. Alright, so let's add the next column, which is first name. And then that is also a varchar column, and the length should be set to 45. Next, let's add the last name column. That is also set to 45 varchar. Next, gender. So the gender data type is also a varchar and it should be set to 10. Next, what else do we have? We have the contact number and address. So let's type in contact number, and then that is also a varchar data type and it is 10. Next, let's add another column as the address. So that is also a varchar, and since the address is a bit long, let's make it to 60 according to the database requirements here. Alright, now to save this information, you'll have to click on save. I'm going to make the index number as the primary key. So right click on index number, then click on create new index and then click on the primary. And now we have created the index number as the primary key. So let me click on save. So we have an error which is invalid default value for index number. So we have to give it a default value. A primary key can never be null. So we have to give it as no default value and then click on OK. And then click on save. So you will not receive the error message again. So next, let's create the teacher table. So the same way we created the student table, let's create the teacher table. So again, right click on SchoolDB, click on create new and then click on table. So let's assign the name to the table as teacher. And then let's add the column. So teacher direct number. So it's a varchar and then give the length as 10. Next we have the first name, then that's also varchar, the length is 45. Next we have the last name, of course. and then that's also a varchar, so that is also 45. Next we have gender. Yes, so let's type in gender. That's also a varchar, so since it's not too long, let me give it as 10. Next we have the contact number, so that's also a varchar, so let's give it as 10. And finally we have the email column. Since emails are long, we'll give a 50 character length. Alright, so we have created 2 tables, and now let's click on save, otherwise all our data will be erased. And like the earlier table, let's also create a primary key for the teacher register number. So you right click the teacher's register number, click on create new index, and then click on primary. Click on save. So we did the same mistake where the default value is null, so we'll have to change the default value as none. So there is no default value. Right, so we have successfully created a database, and then we also created a student table where we made the index number as the primary key. Next we entered column names with the data types and giving it a certain amount of length. Likewise, we also created the teacher table, we also added columns, we created a primary key, we also gave it data types, and we also gave it a character length.